Yes, sir.
I will call the Board of Supervisors meeting for October 1st to order. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Hall.
Here.
Leyland.
Here.
Little.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here, joining virtually, I'm under the weather. Here.
Jelka.
Here. We will now have a moment of silence to reflect on our actions. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will entertain a motion to receive the agenda as proposed or amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. We have an agenda. Item number 2, public comments. Do we have anybody in the boardroom that would like to provide public comment? Do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to provide public comment? Item number 3, Years of Service Awards. Mr. Veeder.
We have one award for today for Wayne Even from the engineer's office for 30 years of service. Kathy, did you want to take that? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank him for his service. Item number 4, Claims and Payments. Michelle?
All right. Morning Board, our payments today are $547,613.21. And the Sheriff 6040 fund is $2,468.70. And that does include a fairly large payment on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail, totaling about $340,024.57, and that was to Bruning Rock Products. Otherwise, everything appears to be in order.
All right, and this is a resolution.
Need a motion. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Veeder, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Hall.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
Little.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item number 5, receive project updates from department heads. Kathy?
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, engineer. I just want to give you a brief update on our secondary roads crews. They are out doing a little bit of spot blading. It is very, very dusty out there right now this year. We have allowed some residents to get third applications of dust control. If that's what they want, they should call in. I will say that in the last 2 weeks of October, we are definitely going to have to start blading the gravel roads so that they are in shape for by November 1st. Historically, of course, we do start getting freezing temperatures at night, so we would want those roads to be tied down as best we can. I would now like to turn it over to Griffin. He wants to give you a brief update on some activities that he's been working on.
Morning, Board.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay. Just a fall update that I like to do every year. Sure. There we go. We wrapped up the spring season here a couple weeks ago, and this is just the overall, everything in blue is all the roads that we covered this spring, summer, and early fall here. We covered 800 and just shy of 850 miles of roadway this year. Our total gallons that we applied was 26,290 total mixed gallons, and that's just spot spraying throughout those 850 miles. So the left is what you see from this year, and the right is compared to last year. I would say roughly miles per day covered last year was maybe anywhere from 10 to 15 miles. And this year we covered anywhere from 20 to 30 miles a day. So the spray truck was a huge help in getting things covered. I have a goal every year of doing half the county, and we exceeded that this year. So that was really, really awesome. Even with as much rain as we had, we're still able to be very productive in keeping our roadways safe and clean. You have any questions on the spray season or anything like that? And we did end up, we bought, everything is in pre-mixed kegs, and we get 9 kegs per purchase. And so those 3 rounds of kegs is exactly what you see on the map and in our usage. So that's kind of what my idea was, is to do 3 rounds, and we ended up being about perfect. So we don't have any carryover or anything. So that's just nice to worry about freezing and thawing and stuff like that in the winter.
Good.
You really exceeded the goals. I suppose next year you'll just do the whole county.
Oh gosh, if I could, I would. But so this year we're really starting to push our adopt our roadside prairie program. This is something that's kind of in the pilot phase. Right now, what this entails of is an adjacent landowner to the right-of-way, say in front of somebody's home or property. They are eligible to sign up for this program, where I will come in and I will spray out the ditch and start new with vegetation, and I'll come in and plant this native prairie within their adjacent right-of-way. Then the only thing I ask the landowner to do is to do the mowings for the first year or two, and then possibly, if they're comfortable, to do a prescribed burn in the 4th year. This is because I can't be there to every single and do all the management on these properties. So it's nice because it gets the roadside IRVM program kind of noticed, and really showcasing what we do in the county. And then also the people have the enjoyment to actually manage their own, small prairie in front of their home, and just learn more about them. And also have something pretty like this. This photo was taken off of Gilbertville Road. So this kind of a neat program that we're starting. Eventually there will be a cost for the signs and posts, kind of like we did the no spray signs and posts, and then just a permit saying, working in the right-of-way permit. Right now it's just kind of in the pilot stage of, there is currently 6 people that have called in, and after that article in the paper, there was like 3 or 4 more people that called in and wanted something like this to be planted in their right away. And so far we're just shy of 2 acres in front of these 6 people's homes. So
What would you say the goal is, number wise, for landowners or acres?
honestly, it's whoever would like to. I mean, there's no set goal. This is just on top of everything else that I like to do at least 2-3 miles a year of complete revegetation, and I would say this would be separate from that goal. Since they can manage that they will manage that on their own. I don't have to manage that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know, related to your question, so they're not restricted to a minimum size at all, the resident?
No. It'll depend year to year, because we do have to get our seed number in from the federal grant that the IRVM program of the Living Roadway Trust Fund gets every year. Mm-hmm. So over the years, I'll figure out about how much that I use on our own county projects, and then what the resident part uses. So then I can get a good idea of what we need every year for seed. Mm. So
When's the ideal time for folks to enroll?
Anytime, yeah. I like to do, I'll kind of show you a little process. Actually, Lori Werners is one of our pilot program folks, and this is just kind of a step-by-step photo of what I do. We go in, I like to spray things out in the fall. So this was sprayed early October, and then it was dead within a couple of weeks. Then I overwinter that, so then it's all kind of broke down there in the right-hand corner, and then that was actually planted then in the spring. A lot of turf grass doesn't really come back, kind of like some of the noxious grasses that we have in our right-of-ways, brome and Reed's canary grass. So, and then this is just another step. This is probably June on the left-hand side with some cover crops that grow in within it. And then on the right that was taken a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, the process, you get with me in the summer. I like to go visit with the landowners to make sure, see what they have for equipment, things like that, if they're comfortable with doing some management tools and tactics, and then, just getting to know them and then come up with our plan. So, yeah.
Is that a thing where, so you said that first phase where you start is October, November?
Yeah, it's late September, early October, yep. I'll start doing spraying. I just completed 4 of them here this last week. So, yeah, so we'll just wait and see. Then I'll burn it off, and then we'll have a blank canvas to work with.
Are there guidelines or anything when you talk about the burns, them kind of doing them themselves? Are there?
Sure, yeah, I have, I give them I follow my own maintenance standard for the county. It's just kind of a simple, broken down into timeline of, when to mow, when to burn, things like that. So I give them that, and if they do want and I do in that maintenance standard, there is a section on burning, so they have a little bit of guidance. But if they want further guidance, I give them documents from the NRCS or any documents from the Iowa DNR on burning things. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Griffin.
No problem.
Tom, Chris, questions?
Oh, I love the program. Love this progress. It's beautiful.
Very good.
Good job.
Thank you.
Any other department heads would like to provide an update in the boardroom? Any on Zoom? All right, item number 6, approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2024.
So move.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Item number 7 is the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Delka.
Yes. Item 8A is a resolution that the statement of completion and final acceptance of work for project FM-C 007 171 5507 and FMC 007 172 5507 HMA resurfacing and cold in place recycling on Dunkerton Road and Canfield Road be approved, and direct the chair to sign for same, and authorize and direct the auditor to make final payment in the amount of $30,000 with a total project cost of $1,390,542.26, as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer, project contracted at $1,517,332.09. Total working days specified 70, working days used 46, liquidated damages assessed 0 to the contractor. Aspro Incorporated, Waterloo, Iowa.
I'll second the motion.
Kathy?
Good morning, Board. As is customary with the final completion, I like to show you a few photos. I go through the process so you know what we're buying. So just very briefly, this project entailed, it was two projects tied together in the DOT letting. The Dunkerton Road paving project with the Canfield Road overpass project. Dunkerton Road paving was between Wagner Road and Highway 63. It went past the old county home. Colden Place Recycle Project, then with 2 lifts of asphalt placed on top of it. The Canfield Road project was currently was a concrete pavement about 3,000 feet long with the Iowa DOT overpass over 380 in the middle of it. So we crack and seeded that concrete pavement, and I'll explain a little bit more about that, what that was, and then placed asphalt on top of that old concrete. And then we did some improvements for the Iowa DOT at the bridge, and then a few drainage improvements. The reason we did the work was the Dunkerton Road paving project, the asphalt was 25 years old. Of course, it was cracked, had transverse cracking in particular. It was just giving a rough ride, and it was an aging asphalt. That's a fairly old asphalt, so it was time to replace it. And then the concrete pavement over 380, I believe, was built in the late 60s or the 70s. So again, it was also aging as well. Delivered a pretty poor ride, especially if you were in a large vehicle like tractors and combines, semi-tractors hauling grain. I'm sure it was a very rough ride. We wanted to improve the ride on that particular section of Canfield Road. As you mentioned, the contract was awarded to Aspro for $1.5 million. No liquidated damages were assessed, and the contract was completed under the contract cost. Just very briefly looking at the process, this was on Dunkerton Road. You can see the Colden Place recycle train. The purpose of Colden Place recycling is to mill up that about 3 to 4 inches of the existing asphalt, mill it up, kind of break up where the old asphalt cracking was, where the transverse cracking was, and rejuvenate that. Use some of that existing asphalt pavement. And so it's milled up in the front of the train. In the middle of the train, it goes through a mill, and new asphalt, the binder is re-injected into that asphalt, and then it's put right back down again and comes through an asphalt paver. And then it's compacted and rolled. Of course, then when you have the new the Colden Place recycle, that's placed down at approximately the same elevation as the old roadway. So then we're going to be replacing or placing new asphalt on top of that, 3 inches of new asphalt, for example. So then that's going to be higher than your bridges and your existing pavement at Highway 63. So we need to tie into those existing structures, and that's what's going on at this work here, making those tie-ins. So now that the Colden Place recycle layer has cured, it takes about 7 to 10 days to cure out. There's a specification for that. When it is time to place the new asphalt pavement, that is being done in these photos. You can see this lip that is placed now on asphalt pavements to get them to tie together to compact better in the middle, so the centerline joint stays together for longer. And then here's the compaction taking place. Compaction of an asphalt pavement is a very important process. We want it to be compacted enough that water does not enter into that pavement over the next 20 years. And then this is finally the contractor is working on tying into the driveways. Here's the driveway at the old county home here at Pillars. That work is taking place, and this is the final lift being placed. Moving on to the Canfield Road project, the first course of business was to remove the old guardrail so that these approaches could be removed. And you can see the old concrete here is broken. It's faulted. That leads to a very rough ride for traffic. So then in the next order of work on the contract, on the concrete paving, is to break up that concrete, but not very much. We're not smashing the concrete. We're just breaking it up, allowing it to be rolled and then seeded so that some of those cracks do not mitigate through on our new asphalt pavement. And this is a very common practice throughout the industry to use this existing concrete that's in fairly good condition, but it does deliver a poor ride, to use that as a base, provide a good structural base, and then place new asphalt on top of that. Here, the contractor's getting ready to, they've removed the old concrete approaches at the bridges, and they will begin the compaction process, compacting the existing soil. You can see the paving notch here. I just wanted to point this out. This is one of the differences between a paved road and a gravel road. This is our paving notch. This is what holds up the concrete at the bridge so it doesn't fall and lead to that. On our gravel roads, we don't have these. We do not build a concrete paving notch in there, so we have nothing to support the approaches. So sometimes that's why you get settlement at a bridge. Just moving on quickly, some drainage improvements were installed. This is a sub-drain that was installed to provide better drainage along this portion of roadway. That's very customary for us to do on a crack and seeded concrete pavement. Here's where those sub-drains outlet into the ditch. And then this is looking at the steel that is placed in the concrete pavement before the new approach is paved. It's green steel, it's protected steel because, of course, we do salt our paved roads. So here's a picture of the new concrete approach. Just a few more slides here. It's very typical now for the DOT. They used to have drains. They would have an internal storm drain collection, and then it would just drain out onto the roadway. Now they have, it's very common now for the DOT. They've eliminated that, and they've gone to a curb section. And then we are installing these rock flumes, and then this drains down the slope of the bridge slope. You will see these very common now on all DOT roads, and so they paid for all of this work as well as for the approach work. And then I just want to say that we were about 8% under budget, and I would like you to approve this so that we can release the retainage and give it back to ASPRO of $30,000. Can I answer any questions at this point?
Hey, Kathy, this is Chris. Not really a question, but I think it might be maybe interesting for the public to do a post, work with Gabby on maybe if you could come up with, and I don't know if you can, but an estimated tonnage of both like the asphalt millage and then the concrete breaking up, the tonnage that's saved from going to the landfill for doing those two practices.
Sure. Yep, we have those numbers. Okay. We will
thank
do
you.
that. Thank you.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Felka.
Yes. Item 8B is a resolution that approves change order number 2, final for the Cedar Valley Nature Trail Division 1 paving contract with Bruning Rock Products Incorporated in the amount of $27,276.78 as determined through quantity verifications by the project engineer utilizing American Rescue Plan funds and Destination Iowa funds with an adjusted project cost from $1,839,452.31 to $1,812,175.53. The same has been approved by the Conservation Board and recommended for approval by the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
Mike?
Mike Hendrickson, Director of Blackhawk County Conservation, and again, this is very simple. This is just a quantity verification, and it ended up, in our favor. There's actually a reduction of the total contract by the $27,276.78. So other than that, the trail is finished, and I know we've got another item C there, but another quick reminder, you should have all received invitations. The ribbon cutting ceremony is this Friday down in Urbana, and we're all looking forward to that. So other than that, we're very happy with the finished product, and people are using the trail a lot.
Good. Any questions for Mike?
An exciting accomplishment, Mike.
Thank you.
One of many this year.
What's that?
One of many.
One of many.
I was going to say you've had so many this year.
Yep.
Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 8C is a resolution that approves the Division 1 paving project on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail as substantially complete and authorizes the release of the contract retainage of $90,608.78, which will be released 30 days from today, utilizing the American Rescue Plan and Destination Iowa funds. The same has been approved by the Conservation Board and recommended for approval by the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions? Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 9A is a motion to direct the county auditor to advertise for a public hearing bid opening to be held at 9:05 a.m. on October 22nd, 2024, in Boardroom 201 of the Blackhawk County Courthouse, 316 East 5th Street, Waterloo, Iowa, to open bids for the proposed purchase of steel to be used in the construction of Project L3017, Mount Vernon Road Bridge, 9013280120.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or
Yeah,
questions?
I just wanted
Kathy?
to comment that this is our project. We do have that day labor threshold that we are mandated by the Court of Iowa to stay under $115,000 for next calendar year of work we can do on a bridge. So in order to stay under that, we have to contract out the structural steel items for that project, so they are not included in that amount. So this is allowing us to send out the proposals, and we will open bids here in the court, in the boardroom.
This is a motion, so all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. It is approved. Item 9B is a resolution to approve the proposed buyout agreement to be utilized by the sheriff's office when hiring a certified deputy sheriff who owes training expenses to a prior employer as recommended by Nathan Neff, jail administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Good morning, Board. Nate Neff. This is as I brought up a couple weeks ago. In the past, it's something that's never really affected us on the positive end anyway. We've certified a lot of people that have gone elsewhere. The majority of that comes because a lot of officers don't want to work in the jail. They want to work the street. With the implementation of our civilian detention officers now, we're actually at a point where we can start hiring people, and if there's going to be little to no wait time for them to get out on the road. Some of the smaller agencies around have taken note of that. In the last few weeks, I've actually had 3 different officers reach out to me saying, we're interested in coming to county. We'd kind of be able to pay off our contract. That's a pretty standard thing that's being done throughout the state and the country, really. So my proposal, and I've worked with both Amanda and Mike on this, so I thank them for their efforts with that, is if someone does come to us that's got a contract, generally they're 3 to 4 year contracts that they've signed, we would cap it at $10,000, which generally covers the entire contract anyway. We would pay out their contract to the agency, so it wouldn't be considered wages, it wouldn't be compensation to the person. If they came from agency X, we would pay off whatever balance their contract is. Like I said, they're prorated, so assuming they've been there a year or two, that $10,000 is probably going to be down to $7,500 or $5,000, whatever it is. We'd pay that off, and it's a very low risk, high reward, because we'd then have them sign a new contract with us. And as you saw from the document that I sent out yesterday, if you had a chance to look at it, between wages and actual academy costs, if we send someone to ILEA, it's about $25,000 since we're paying their wages for 4 months. If we're lucky enough to be able to send them to Hawkeye because they've got the credentials that get them there, we're still looking at about $15,000. So if I can bring somebody in that's already certified, essentially put them straight on the road, save that 2 to 4 months of training. I mean, like I said, we're very low risk, high reward transaction for us. So.
Nate, this is Tom. Did you say that they'll sign a contract?
Yep,
with
we've got a
us
contract
once
drawn
they
up.
come aboard?
Yes, it's essentially the same contract that's been modified that I think you guys just approved 2 of them for us to send to ILEA here earlier in this meeting. So it's the same contract, just the wording changed a little bit to cover that they've already been certified.
And you mentioned that you thought the contracts were pretty similar, or as far as...
Yeah, Amanda actually took the existing contract and just modified some of the verbiage on it, and then Mike looked it over. So
I mean, as far as other counties in the state and that type of thing, or outside the state, I guess.
yeah,
it's
typically what you find
the same
anywhere you
amount.
go is a 4-year contract that's prorated. So each year you stay your payback amount goes down on that.
Do we have any contracts that aren't repaid? You know, when we always do the contract with people and then they're supposed to commit to that repayment plan, do we know if they're,
Honestly,
do they always
once
do it?
they leave, that's a contract with you guys. I don't
Yeah.
know if anyone's paying on one at this point now or not.
I'm not aware that there are any that have
Outstanding?
gone and collected, but
Okay.
Typically, if they default on them, we can actually go for decertification on them too. So they've got a pretty high incentive to
That's what I thought.
make sure
but
they
I
pay off
wasn't
that
sure.
contract.
Well, that's good to know too. And you,
And a lot of agencies pay off the contract, so when they leave, that other agency is probably paying enough for them anyway. It's one of those things that's not a huge amount of money for us, but as a young officer that's only got a couple years on, maybe a young family, that $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 is kind of a big hurdle for him to clear or her to clear. So
how long do they have to work then typically to not owe anything, like if they were to leave? Is it?
Ours is a 4-year contract, which is pretty standard.
Okay.
So if they left after 2 years, they would owe half of what we paid off. If they left after 3 years, it'd be a quarter, and by 4 years, their time is up, so they can move on as they see fit.
Thank you.
All right, any
I
more?
think we worked really hard to make these wages competitive with this, and I think this is a reflection of that as well. So it's great to see this kind of going in our direction now.
Yeah. This is the
I
first
would agree,
time,
Chris.
isn't it? I was gonna say first time in a long time anyway.
Yep, the wages have definitely helped. We've done a nice job on that, but then, like I said, the big part of it is that jail time. It's-
Yeah, and you said they could get out on the streets and
Yeah,
stuff a lot
absolutely.
faster, so that, yeah, all helps.
All right, this is a resolution. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 9C, discussion possible board action to consider approval of the bids received from Exxon of Scottsdale, Arizona for the acquisition of body camera and evidence management system in the amount of $754,183.16 for a 5-year agreement, $1,472,825.92 for a 10-year agreement, and for the acquisition of tasers in the amount of $297,682.40 for a 5-year agreement, and $628,486.61 for a 10-year agreement, and for the chair to sign the contract conditional on the receipt of certificate of insurance as recommended by Al Yu, IT Director.
Morning, Board.
Al?
LU IT Director. So we met about 3 weeks ago, and briefly talked about this topic, and I felt that we probably should bring more information to you guys, so I wanted to just provide a quick slide that kind of does a high-level recap of how we got here, and just to highlight some of the features of Axon, and then we also have a few demos, live demos, short demos to show you guys. So I'll go ahead and just get started. So the reason why we want to upgrade the current body cam system, it's called WatchGuard. It has pretty much reached its end of its life. It's probably over for about a 2-year past its usefulness.
How long did it?
I'm sorry.
How long have we used it?
I think we're going on the 7th year. So we've got hardware that's failing. The technology is slower in terms of like the storage is a slower technology. The storage where all the video footage goes to, it's on premises. It is running out of space. As fast as evidence goes in, it can't keep up with it because it's supposed to automatically remove the old data after a certain time period. It's struggling to keep up. So we're making it work, but it has not been a great experience for the deputies. So that was one of the big impetus of this upgrade. As well, we'd like to acquire new hardware that's a lot more dependable. I think WatchGuard has served a good purpose for most of the deputies. It's not really I don't think it's a bad product, but it's old, and so the latest greatest technology is always going to be better. And then lastly, we want to see some of the new features that in the latest technological advances. So. And then with that, there's added transparency to the citizens, and I think it's more safety overall. All right, so how we got here. So we released a RFP back on May 18th. We received bids from 4 bidders. Those bidders were Axon, Motorola, GTAC, and Utility. We formed a committee that consists of Captain Boshin, Captain Herbst, Brian Williams, and myself. And we, over the course of 3 months, we met frequently to kind of assess all the bids. We checked references. It was a process, so we spent a good amount of time on it. But I'm proud of the work we did, and I know it was time consuming, but it was definitely worth it because it's a really important decision. So
You did check quite a few references, too.
we checked a lot of references. So yeah, and particularly we checked a lot on Axon. So, so there were
cities, counties within the state or outside?
cities, counties, mainly cities and counties. There were a few like college campuses, security campuses too. Kind of a mixed match on what products they had there. So overall, the proposal was for 52 body-worn cameras. 8 of them will go to park rangers, 20 new car cameras, 2 interview rooms, and then a complete software system that kind of puts it all together. And the common features of most of the products, most of us are familiar with Axon. They are generally the leader. They've been there the longest, and they have the latest, greatest technology usually. So a lot of the competitors have caught them and some of the common features. So this is just kind of highlighting that. All of them pretty much do unlimited storage if you go with the cloud storage choice. No questions asked hardware. If it breaks, they replace it, and then basically all the software is web-based. So there are a few that will offer on-premises storage, but we actually, as a county, don't qualify for that. You have to have more cameras to qualify for that, which is kind of backwards. So now with Axon, 3 weeks ago, we did put forward a recommendation to go towards Axon. So I just want to highlight some of the key features of Axon. So they all do 5 and 10-year terms, and in those terms, you get hardware refreshes. So with a 5-year term with Axon, for example, right at 2.5 years, you get a refresh of their body cams. The car cams are rated for 5 years. What some of the other vendors don't tell you is that refresh gets you the latest model of. So whatever new model is out is what you get in that refresh. Some of them don't state that. Some could very well give us refurbished units. So there's that. But the guaranteed latest model is a big key. A customer service manager is going to be assigned to us. The difference with Axon and everyone else is that person's there for the entire length of the term, and there's no additional charge for that. So that's a huge benefit. And lastly, I think they're as I've compared the DEMS, the evidence management software, I've looked it over extensively. Axon has the most robust software. I think they all kind of integrate a little bit of AI into it, but I just think, and this is me, an outsider looking in, not having any experience with body cams and not being a law enforcement agent. I feel that their software is the most powerful and most feature ready. Another key feature is the license plate reader. I think this is going to be a huge benefit it's a huge benefit for every agency that currently has it. Basically, the officer will have their tough book and they're driving, and the camera will automatically detect any license plates that's been flagged. With Axon, they also have integration into Flock, which is a nationwide system that will also help with detection of and help solve crimes. I don't think any of the other vendors have that integration. As well as with their body cams, they have a watch me feature. So if you have an officer that's in a situation where they need more eyes on the situation, they can actually double tap their body cam, and it will immediately give a notification to whoever the watch commander is, and then they can immediately watch live what's on their footage on the camera, and then or send additional help. They could also live stream it, but I don't think that's something. We're not cops, so we don't have a syndicated show. And then as well, there's a 2-minute pre-buffer. So what that means is if you're in an incident and you don't have time to turn your camera, it's already pre-recording for the first 2 minutes. And so there's some benefits of that, because in the heat of the situation, you don't have time to quickly turn on your camera. It's sort of doing that for you. All the other manufacturers do that too, but Axon has a 2-minute buffer, which is a pretty long buffer. And then another feature is the community request. I think this is a really cool feature. It's basically where you can get the community involved. So you all remember the Lyric and Elizabeth, and that was a situation that was a bit close to home for me. Had we had a feature like this, I think it would have been incredibly helpful. Basically, it stands up a website that anyone can anonymously provide any cell phone footage, pictures, any evidence, and apply it, and then it all goes into one location that would help the case move. So I think it's a great feature. You can also do individual uploads too. So if I was an investigator, and I'm working with just one person, they can just discreetly send that to me. I can just provide a link, or I can put up a website to do that.
Axon's the only one that provides that?
They all now provide that. They were the only ones for a while there. And then really the only difference between the different vendors is, I would say, your preference, which is subjective to the interface, the ease of access, and then how long they store it, and if they charge you extra for that additional storage. And then just a few key exclusive features. So Axon has I think is one of the coolest features. It's called Axon Performance. And this is a full assessment of your hardware, your video, so that it helps with accountability. One of the things it does really well is it does anonymous random video assessments. So let's just say you're a supervisor and you oversee the patrol officers, and so you want to look at their footage and make sure that they're doing their job correctly and kind of gauge all of that. It randomizes the video that's sent to the supervisor. They don't get to cherry pick which video it's from. And then they can do all their assessment, record it. It's all done right there, and then they get the feedback right away. But in addition to that, it also does statistics with their devices. It'll actually record if their body cam. They're supposed to restart their body cams on occasion, and if they don't, it actually warns them about that. It can pull the statistics from the tasers, how many times it's been fired. And so it kind of lumps all that together. No other vendor has this feature. I'm sure they will in the future, but to me, this is huge, especially for accountability and transparency. The other big thing that I think Mr. Williams will probably share here in a bit is the seamless case evidence sharing. For example, Waterloo PD has a direct share to us, and the attorneys have access to all the cases and all the evidence tied to those cases. All that is there. They don't have to request it. Anytime anything is updated, it's right there, ready for them to access. And when they open up the video evidence, they can use all the tools like the transcription, the redaction. It's all right there. It's very convenient. There's no burning DVDs and waiting for someone to bring it to you. All that is just done right there live in the cloud. And lastly, I thought this was really cool. There are multiple sensors that can activate Axon cameras. So everyone has a taser or something that can activate a camera or your car camera. With Axon, all of their hardware is tied together. So let's just say Cedar Falls and Waterloo go to the same incident. The moment one person draws a taser or whatever sensor that activates it, all the cameras turn on, regardless which company you're with. All the Axon hardware turns on. So, and I think that's huge because you could capture something right away. In the heat of the moment. So, and you have all these angles, and then all those angles will get put into one nice multi-camera view. I didn't put that on the slide, but you have the convenience of tying your body cam, your car cam. Tasers even have cameras if you want them, optional, and they'll put them all in one view under that person, all time synced at the same time. So that's a pretty cool feature. Sorry, I know I've gone through a lot. Do you guys have any questions for me? I also provided the slides for you there too.
Al, I've got a couple of questions. If the board selects either option, the 10-year or 5-year, is there an out clause at either option?
That might be a contract negotiating thing that Mr. Trinan might be better to answer. I guess that's if we decide to move forward with them and they present a contract, I'm guessing that probably could be negotiated in there.
Mike's
And
back.
then,
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about earlier, I think almost before the meeting maybe, was about the contract and not being available to us, Tom. So Mike's back in the room now. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
I choose apparently the best time to leave.
Apparently, he tried that.
Supervisor Little was asking if we move forward and we sign a contract with them, if there would be a out clause. And I can't say if there would be by default, but
Yeah, we can't say that right now because we haven't seen it. Now, there was not an out clause in a contract executed within the last year or so by Cedar Falls. I know that. Michelle managed to pull a contract that they entered into with Axon on that. However, the terms of it were fairly typical for a contract like this. In fact, there was an out clause if there was breach by the other side, but you had to let them have an opportunity, a 30-day opportunity to cure that breach was the thing. So no, there's not an out clause in the only contract I've seen from Axon. It's not to say there can't be. I would guess they probably don't typically have these kind of provisions.
I was going to say, did we have an out clause with WashGuard? Or do we have one?
that I would know. Do you
Anybody?
guys happen to know that?
I don't believe so. I think the contract was
What did, yeah, okay, thank you.
the other couple of questions I had was, again, if we accept either option, when we, are they guaranteed cost on both 10 or 5 year, or can they raise or increase it midstream of either option?
That was a question I had too, since we did have that in the last few months.
I would,
year.
without seeing an example, I don't know if that verbiage is in there. I would assume that it is for it is a set amount, but I would let Mr. Tridon look at that contract to see if there's any verbiage.
By the way, to go back on what I just mentioned before, I pulled it up again, there was if they don't have sufficient funds appropriated, the agency could terminate the contract. So I guess that is an out clause of sorts. They're saying, look, if you're not going to pay us, we terminate the agreement. And they said the agency can terminate it. I'm sorry. So what was the next question?
As far as protection, as far as any increase mid contract, whether it be 5 years or 10 years?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, the contract sets the price, and we're not setting anything beyond the contract term, is my understanding.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so we don't know that. That'll be in the contract or something?
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, did I want to make sure I understood you correctly, Supervisor Little? Were you asking about how the price could change after the expiration of the contract? I mean, the contract's
No. Let's just say we select option 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Within that 5 years, can they change the rate that originally was guaranteed or approved on?
They can't.
Midstream, say the third year in or the fourth year.
To my knowledge, they cannot change it for a 5-year agreement. Again, I have not seen the contract. Nobody's provided with us with a contract at this point. But there's no provision that outright allows them to change that price. Now, as you know, we've seen some situations where performance of the contract is claimed to be impossible for a contract rate. And so we've had vendors for other things that have changed contract rates. There's nothing that leads me to believe that would be the case with this vendor, but I certainly can't guarantee that.
So whatever we approve today, does that?
Go ahead, Linda.
I'm just going to say, so what we would approve today, whichever way we would go, would be contingent on seeing the contract or Mike's review of the contract, if there were any issues. Not that I expect any, but that's got to be, I assume, since we've not seen one, that's almost what we'd have to do. Okay.
None of the bidders provided a contract. One maybe gave an example of a statement of work, but I don't think they're not going to show their cards right away. So.
No, but just in fairness to us, I guess, when you haven't seen
Yeah,
the contract and say, yeah, you're doing it.
So what we're going to approve today is approving the certain vendor through the RFP. Will the contract actually come back to the board for approval once we get
Correct.
these questions answered?
Correct, yep. So,
So the contract will come back for board approval?
correct. If we decide to move forward with this, if there's a motion to approve it, we will get in touch with Axon, and then they will provide us a formal contract, and then we will have Mr. Trinan look it over, and also, of course, come back to the board for a formal.
Do we know how long that's going to be before if we approve the RFP today or the approval of the vendor, how long before the board can see a contract and put it on the agenda?
I would assume within a week. I would have to verify with our rep, but I would assume they probably have this ready to go. They already know that we made the recommendation to go with them, so I'm assuming that their legal department will probably have a contract pre-written up for this.
Plus, well, obviously, we're going to want legal to go over the contract before it's brought to the board.
Of course, yep.
And I think it's important that any resolution to approve this should state explicitly that it's subject to the terms of the contract and review of it.
Do we have any idea as far as the timing to receive I guess, the system and put it in place, I guess, and how long that takes? Oh.
Good morning, Board. Mark Herbst, Sheriff's Office. So I spoke with Axon yesterday. They said that if the board moves ahead with this, what they could expect, they expect that we'll go back and forth with our legal department and their contract, but they think that that could be solidified within a month for approval to come back for the board with all the terms, financial agreement and that type of thing. Once the contract is signed and approved by both entities, then implementation would occur within about 10 to 12 weeks, that we would be up and running with all the equipment.
Okay. That's fairly quick.
Michelle, did we budget any money in this current budget year for, I'm assuming there's going to be a cost once we sign the contract and they start the process?
Nothing has been budgeted in either operating or even the capital, but it has been on the ARPA replacement revenue list.
At the 750,000. Yeah.
So there will be a cost during this fiscal year?
Sounds like it. I'm guessing it'll start maybe by January, February,
Yeah.
if the time schedule goes as Captain Herbst described.
And so then one other thing with the board that we also included in this bid was an optional bid for TASER. I know that I spoke with you a couple times previously in board meetings, and the TASER contract expired in August. We had a 5-year plan or a 5-year agreement with them. That's currently expired. I spoke with our instructors. Those TASERs, most of them are up and running right now. At the end of the 5 years, typically they start having some issues with them, and we are seeing that. But they're serviceable right now, and for the foreseeable future, they're repairable. When we bid this, the TASER contract included with this as an optional feature. Last year, when we did previously, the department was paying for TASER out of the 60-40 fund, the 40% portion. And I think there was a year or two that we just took it out of our regular budget, and maybe a year that there was some non-tax-based jail funding that we were able to fund it with. But now we had to put it in the 5-year plan. When we did this last January, when we were working on budget, we put that in 2026 and allotted $200,000 for that. Now, with that, whether you go with the 5-year on TASER or whether you go with the 10-year, obviously it's going to be a little bit higher than what we projected for the $200,000 according to their bid. When we did this 5 years ago, or just over 5 years ago, that contract was for $125,000. So the difference you're seeing is what has occurred with inflation over the last 5 years. We understand that there was nothing budgeted in FY25 for the TASERs. It was put in the 5-year plan for FY26 at that amount, but that was a placeholder. But what we're trying to do there is plan for the future here and to give you guys options. With Taser, if you choose to proceed, the benefit of that and this doing it together is that they're giving us a little bit better deal, and then we would be locking that price in at 2024 prices. In December, there will be price increases, which they would estimate, they haven't said exactly, but roughly in the area of 3 to 4%. They're also given a different price for bundling both of them together. In the event that you did proceed with Taser, what we would recommend that you do is that we can still make this an FY26 project, and in that contract, delay implementation of the Taser until after July 1st of 26. I confirmed that with Taser yesterday, or Taser Axon, that they would be willing to do that if we proceeded ahead. And they said they're, with the two bids, they're able to work with our finance and our legal to balance what you're allocating. Cameras 1 year, Tasers the other years, to make that work, and that we're planning for the future and maximizing, number one, the bundle savings, and number two, getting a FY26 project at what the price is in 2024.
So Mark, are you saying then they're under this, if we sign this contract and move ahead, there'll be no payment made in this fiscal year?
That is not what I'm saying. What they would be, I definitely think, or are you talking about Taser or the body camera project?
If whatever contract's coming back to the board for approval.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, was that contract, actually, let's go this route. Michelle, when that contract gets back and it goes for review with Mike, would you also be involved with that? So when it's brought back to the board for approval, the board will know how much is due at the time and when it's due and how we're going to fund it. I think those are key questions that the board should have when they vote on the contract.
Mike says sure, he can share that with me so we can figure that out, yes?
We can work together.
Well, I think it's important.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
So Tom, I'm assuming that there would have to be a payment if we're implementation of the body cameras in FY25. They're going to want some money, obviously. That's probably going to be weighted. If we wait for implementation of the Taser until FY26, when we had put it in to the 5-year plan, I think what they're saying is they would weight the cameras heavier on the payment, because obviously county government, we can't pay for Tasers on something that we haven't received yet until July. So then next fiscal year, we would weight that heavier with the payment being towards the Taser equity.
I understand, and we can,
Yeah.
well, they can talk about that the next budget. I just wanted to know those 3 questions when we review the contract is how much is due, what time, and where the funding's coming from.
Yeah, and obviously,
if it falls under this fiscal year.
yes, okay, and so obviously the devil's in the details with that contract, and that's where I think you're on track. It's important to have Mike and Michelle both deeply entrenched in that contract.
So do we know, we don't know that they pay, like we have to make payments monthly, yearly? It seemed like somewhere, I thought somebody mentioned a year.
What I understood it was, we could choose to pay all of it right up front.
Yeah.
We could choose to pay a lump sum up front and then balance the rest out over the next 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose just to do an equitable amount, a yearly contract. Of what I've been involved and understood, it's a yearly contract. If they wanted a month, or if we wanted a monthly contract, I think they would be open to that. I don't think, maybe that's what you're looking for.
I just wondered how,
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody, I knew Al said he hadn't any numbers in his presentation, so I just thought,
Yeah.
for us kind of looking at the 5-year versus 10-year, with or without Tasers. I guess I was thinking myself, because Tasers weren't budgeted in this year at all, it wasn't part of the ARPA request either. I'd kind of looked at them separately. I get the bundling feature, but I like what you're saying, that they're willing to look at it kind of as a bundled system.
Yeah, and I mean.
And they're the only ones who offer tasers, right?
What's that?
This is the only company that offers tasers. So if we're going with Axon, it would make zero sense for us to not move forward with tasers as well, because we're going to need them.
Right.
Well,
And that's the thing is, yes,
Yeah.
you're right in line with what we were thinking why we did this, is if we went with Axon, tasers, the only, they've got a patent and they're the
not-
guys.
yeah, It's not whether or not to go with them. I think it was
Right.
just a timing issue. If the
Correct,
timing works
yeah.
better for us to do it in another year, because we didn't, the payment and having.
Oh yeah, the payment and the implementation. But if
Yeah.
we're going to move forward,
So, and Sergeant Nye is our taser expert. He's our master taser trainer. He's the one that is responsible for any of the repairs, that type of thing, and coordinating with Axon with respect to the tasers. I spoke with him at length yesterday, and he feels comfortable if we did the implementation in July that we're going to be okay. In the meantime, there may be, because we're out of contract, a battery, this kind of thing that goes bad, the training cartridges that we need to use for new employees, that type of thing. We'll have to buy those because it's outside of contract, but the expenses on that become somewhat, in the terms of the money we're talking about, is negligible, and the sheriff's office would find the money within either our training budget or somewhere to pay for that.
And that's why I thought where we look for the funding too. I don't want us to get caught up in just the taser discussion though, when the larger system is really kind of what we've all been trying
Correct.
to move forward on
Right.
too. So that was great. So, and I understand Brian's got some more information to add of the benefit, but
Yes.
and also maybe, I don't know if there's other, it seemed like the demo for the system, so it was great. But I thought the taser, I appreciate the information you're
So
giving
then,
us. This makes
if
it
you
work.
chose not to proceed forward with the taser, then we would definitely have to be, it's budgeted in FY '26.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do it, because once we outfit an officer with this type of equipment, at the crux of it is officer safety. And then when that equipment doesn't work, and we don't provide them those tools, if somebody gets hurt, we all shoulder that liability and the responsibility for that. We have to move forward with it at some point in time.
Oh, sure.
If you choose not to do it now, that would be your prerogative, but then you would have to rebid it under
one bid, yeah.
under one
proposal that
bid
we'll get.
and one company.
Yeah, no.
And
it
then
will likely cost more money.
Yeah.
it's going to cost more money.
Almost like-
They're saying it's-
Almost, they're telling us
I'm
now.
not arguing.
They're,
that
Yeah,
point.
they're telling us
they're being frank
Mark's
with us
arguing
up
that
front.
point, not me.
So if we can work that out in a bundle package, great. If we don't, well, then we just have we've just kicked the can down the road that we've got to deal with
I
later.
just want to make sure that the number on the agenda is right on the tasers. Right, so the Axon system, there's a little bit of a discount for going to the 10-year. A modest discount. It's $30,000 or something along those lines. But we're sort of an extra $30,000 if we go from 5-year to 10-year. So they're building in some inflation on that.
Yeah.
Or is that number?
Yeah, and one of the concerns I'm afraid of is when we did WatchGuard 6 years ago, the total project cost was $250. Just like Taser was $125, and we went to what it is now. That's hard to accept, but it is what it is. The same thing is going to happen if we go down the road. It's a $30,000 thing, but if we rebid it in 5 years, that's why we've given those options to hopefully hedge off those other inflationary things. The company accepts that risk. And to Tom's point before, I think it's extremely important to get those terms into the contract that lock them in, that the dollar figure, if you guys approve this, this is a lot of taxpayer money or money that's coming from somewhere. It's important that we spend that wisely, and those terms have got to lock the company into protecting the county and those that pay that bill.
Hy-Vee is using this system. And as a user of it, I have no complaints. It's amazing. Every month I'm submitting evidence to the Waterloo Police Department that Brian eventually gets. And it's so intuitive in just using the system. It's so simple. The compatibility, if a Waterloo officer's on scene and I activate my body camera, theirs goes on. If I pull my taser, everybody's camera goes on in the area. The one thing that, when I started carrying a taser 20 years ago, I thought, well, this technology is never going to improve. I'm shocked how it has.
Yeah.
You had one fire back then. Now I can fire twice.
Yeah.
So the company's taking a risk, in my opinion, by they're putting solid numbers out there. They're saying we'll stand by these numbers for 10 years. That technology is going to improve. That technology costs money. They've been a wonderful partner with the Waterloo Police Department, with Hy-Vee. I strongly support going 10 years on both because I have no concerns at all with this company. And I'm impressed with what
I don't
they've-
think anybody's questioning the safety part of it or the company. I think all I'm concerned about is the contract, which with the particulars, the logistics within it, and that'll come in time when we see the contract. It's brought back to the board. I guess the only thing we're approving today is approving the top bidder through the RFP process, if I'm not wrong.
But we also need to approve 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, whether we're taking the 5 or the 10.
And whether you want to
and
do
whether we
both
do
or not.
Okay,
tasers or not.
but as
And then-
far as the integrity of the company, I haven't heard anybody question that. If the sheriff's office is telling me that this is the top of the line stuff, I'm not experienced to say, no, it isn't. I'm taking their word for it. My job is to worry about the logistics of the contract after the fact.
Tom, we're deeply sensitive to the dollar figure too, and it's hard to come back to recommend it at what the dollar figure is.
So
But with the research, they are simply the best that there is, and the most reliable, and
I don't think anybody's disputing
Yeah,
that, Mark.
right.
I think
Yep,
you're
I got it.
right.
Is some of it, and the funding, will that be something we want to discuss later then, with as far as like funding from the sheriff's office or funding from the attorney's office or that type of, or,
Whenever.
I mean,
Well,
since we looked at funding and where
I mean, if we're-
it was like,
we've got 750 in ARPA,
yes. we know
right?
that.
That we've already carved out in ARPA. So if we're just going to do 5 years, that 754,000, utilizing the 750,000 from ARPA, then okay, we're
yeah.
pretty much set.
I'm thinking.
If we're looking,
probably not
if we're going to
looking
look at the 10-year,
Yeah,
then at least having some better understanding of where we're at on I
future
know-
funding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know there was some conversation on the 60-40.
Brian's
Can you-
mentioned some things
Yeah,
too,
can you
but
re-
I just thought, I just think going forward, like you said, we have the 750 and we possibly, and I don't know that it couldn't qualify, could have some overages at the end of the year, depending on how our contracts come in, that there could be funding in ARPA possibly for this type of a project too. Not that we're expecting it, but
Is there any other questions for me? If not, maybe I'll turn it over to Brian. I know that he had some.
I don't think, not for me, I don't think right now. The tasers, I think, thank you.
Tom or
That was
Chris?
yours.
No, I don't.
Nope, but I'm leaning towards the 10-year option, provided we've got strong protection in the contract.
Yeah.
These are probably sitting on a container ship in the Pacific or the Atlantic anyway.
Maybe, Al, I know when I talked with you a couple weeks ago, I had asked, I think Michelle and Chris, that there was some conversation about purchasing tasers outright, and if that was possible within this. Was that followed up on with Axon to purchase outright versus?
Yes, they do. They do offer that ability if you wanted to go that route.
Okay.
So they can carve out just the hardware and then you can pay for the software separately. They're pretty flexible about that.
And if we were to go that route, would that be a bondable expense?
Possibly, yeah. This is the first I've really heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to look into it, I suppose.
But they did say that's a possibility,
Could be.
and it's
Okay.
not, it's actually it's not uncommon. They've been asked about that too.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Al, was that in the RFP, that option?
They didn't. They responded back in an email, and I can provide that for you if you guys want to see that. Obviously, we wouldn't want something like that on paper if that's something we want to pursue, but they did say that they have the ability to do so.
I'm talking about our RFP that we put out.
We didn't put anything regarding bonding on the source. It was Yeah, and then the tasers were an addendum. It was just to seek the actual bids, and they just came back with us a price. We didn't say how we were paying for it or anything like that, so.
All right.
Anything?
Brian?
Brian, thanks.
I'm going to bring up Mr. Williams here because he would like to give you a quick demonstration of it.
Yeah, oh, I'm looking forward to it, because
Speaking of tasers, I do not like having my back to Kathy. So if someone could keep an eye on her for me.
she's not even in alignment with you, you're good.
Brian Williams, Black Hawk County attorney. I was kind of kicking myself from 3 weeks ago when I spoke to the board, because I felt like I was preaching simplicity for simplicity's sake or efficiency for efficiency's sake. That's not why I'm here. I talked a little bit about just what that efficiency has done for my office, what it has done for the shortage that we have, the ability both in my office as well as the shortage on the defense side, what this has done for us. And I want to just reiterate that ultimately what I'm going to do for you today is what you can get from it, but what I can't do is show you what things were like 5 years ago and 6 years ago, and that's unfortunate because that's, it was a stone age compared to what this is. So I just shared this here. So what I'm going to show you is the evidence.com function.
And you have not utilized this because we don't have it, but you've utilized it in other settings, or you've seen others?
No, I utilize this all the time because of Waterloo and Cedar Falls.
Okay, because of the, I was going to say.
And it's free of charge for me,
Okay,
which means it's free of charge for the people that we share it with too.
okay, thank you.
There's nothing confidential on here, and some of the videos I'll show you, there'll be nothing confidential on here, but ultimately, what I'm looking at here is a number of different entries, a number of different cases. The W denotes Waterloo, the C denotes Cedar Falls, and what that means is ultimately both of these agencies, and I roughly say 60% Waterloo, 20% Cedar Falls, 20% Sheriff's Office, and then a little bit of the smaller agencies, roughly. And then I think August or July of last year, Wendy came to me and was my guardian angel and basically said, hey, when a case comes to us, meaning to their office, they automatically just share it with us. We don't ask, they just give it to us. Right? If there's an arrest, they just give it to us. Some of these cases on here we'll never see because it'll be something that takes care of itself in court and won't even be assigned to my office necessarily. But just for purposes of an overview here, there's roughly 3,000 cases on here right now. Now, that's not 3,000 items, that's 3,000 cases. Each of these cases could have hundreds of different pieces of evidence in them, could have, hundreds of pictures, hundreds of videos. Some could have 2 or 3, some of the smaller cases. This, I'm going to do this in kind of just in, how do I switch this now? So to go to this screen. So this is just down here.
So if you want to show the entire screen, let's not share it.
Okay, that's not a big deal. So I'm just going to copy this. I was hoping to share this with you, but I can't. Ultimately, we get discover requests in a number of different forms. So I have to write this down now since I can't share it with you. Now it's actually become so simplistic that it's virtually just emails. But when I want to share a case, I go back to
So simple I can use it.
Just wait a minute. You just putting up here as a demo is probably the problem.
So I'm just going to punch a number in here. and there's a point to this, it's going to seem silly that I'm doing this, but it's a 23 case. I apologize for this. I was hoping I would be able to share this, but so this is just a singular case that I discovered a request on. I have not shared it. I got the request, I believe, earlier this week. I do that only to show that however long that took me, it would have taken me 3 to 5 days to do that 6, 7 years ago. I did in a matter of seconds. And I think Supervisor Hall had asked about just wanting maybe some numbers or some efficiencies. So on September 26th, from 9:30 to 10:30, I personally had 23 cases on the docket. And you can triple that because there were 3 of us in court at the time. So just in those 23 cases, many of which have already requested discovery, but of those 23, 8 requested discovery that morning. So, and that didn't include the emails that were for cases that were not on the docket. So if you triple that, that was just 24 shares from 9:30 to 10:30 on September 26th. That's what we were able to do. And again, if you think about each of those being a matter of days before, that is the sharing part, the viewing part, the fact that I can share while I'm at home, that I can view while I'm at home without having to do anything beforehand on a number of different cases is what's made this so efficient for us. So as I go back here, now I'll kind of start my real demo. So I'm going to go to a different case as well to kind of show you, Supervisor Truffle referred to it when he talked about his ability to upload things. But so there's a number of photographs, there's a number of interior cameras, body cameras, front cameras. And the audio will kick on here in a second. Yep. Actually, I'm going to exit the full screen because I want to show you the other benefit to this. If you look on the right pane, this will show us the entire path that the vehicle went in during the course of this particular incident. This is a pursuit again.
Looks like we're going college to 10.
I use this particular example because this was a Waterloo and a Sequoia. We're using Axon to combine both of their individual evidence.
10th Walnut.
So this will tell us who the individual officer was. Some of this information is not important, but it tells us if it's a body, if it's front, if it's interior, if it's a photograph, if it's something that's not associated with the independent individual agency at all. And Supervisor Troca alluded to this a little bit. So, it's not only obtaining the stuff from the individual agency, like the body cam, squad car. When you look at this, if you're able to see that. So, independent of that, most cases would require other evidence, say video from a particular store or from the hospital, fill in the blank. It could be anything. That would necessitate for us to do something in addition to everything else. Now this is all just in one individual case. So for here we have cameras from the particular store. They uploaded the receipt. There's body cam. There's photographs. That doesn't necessitate for us to make the additional phone call to property or walk across the street. It's all right there in one central location. And again, the benefit is, and I'm not going to, I mean, these other agencies do allow for sharing, but this is one central location for all of this, which would mean Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Sheriff's Office, and hopefully other agencies eventually would become involved, that it's just a one-stop shop. I've alluded to the fact that we are, when I first started, one of the biggest issues was the nature in which we provided discovery and the cost that was associated for the defendant. That was kind of one of the topics that was, because we provided discs, they had to pay for them. All this stuff is provided to every defendant for free. And that includes defendants with attorneys, defendants without attorneys. If they just provide us their email, we can share it with them. So that's really all I have. I just kind of wanted to show you the functionality, kind of the more practical side of things, the benefits that ultimately we see, my office sees, that's kind of separate and distinct from what the sheriff's office handles. So.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, any questions for Brian? Is there anyone else that would like to provide input?
So I do have Wendy from Waterloo PD. If you guys would like, she can show you something else from Axon Performance. It's completely up to you if you guys want to see it.
Sure. Wendy?
Yeah, please, appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Let me send back in.
Good morning, Board. Wendy Dranoski from the Waterloo Police Department. We have multi-factor authentication on Axon, so they do send a thing to your email and you have to get. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so this is just our sandbox. It's our test area where we can put information in and do it. So the one thing that, one of the things about that, this is just video that I've uploaded all at one time. I can take, 3 videos and I can review them all at the same time. It will tell me the information about, where my video was recorded. It will tell me the information about who recorded it, all of the information that I need. I can actually look at the transcribe. So it will transcribe each one of your videos automatically. It actually, tells you all of the information in there. And you can then, as the officer, take that information and make it into a report. So it does definitely decrease the amount of time the officer has to take writing that. And then I can add any notes I want to the video itself. And I can go in between multiple different videos. And so that information is just available to the officer. It cuts down the officer's time and everything with that. As far as the performance that Al talked about, the performance itself, you can break your department into however you want to do it. If you want to break it out into different squads, and then you indicate the sergeant or whoever's over that squad, that as a supervisor or administrator of the system, you indicate how many videos that you want to set per month, and for the supervisor to review. The supervisor logs in here. They get a video review goal that says from this date to this date you have to review. In this case, it's 12. They hit review now, and it automatically comes up with all of the videos that they can then review. Check and make sure that the officer is doing what they want. There are different things that you can set, and so positive and negative. If once they're done, it attaches that to the video, and it comes down in the end. Then you can actually email the officer and say, "Here's your video. I reviewed it. Here's some comments about it," and that feedback comes right in line. And then all of that, it's just a constant way for the supervisor to be able to monitor and continually train new officers, especially in the FTO process and moving forward. But it does give you some information about activation rate and power cycling, categorization rate and ID rate, because you do ID each one of your videos and put them in a different category. And so all of that information is available. This performance is really a big deal and something that's vastly used throughout. I don't know if there's the Axon Community Request is the one thing that Al talked about being made available. As an officer, they used to have to go and confiscate cell phones and equipment like that from people. They don't have to do that anymore. They can send a notification, and then it's very easy for the user to then upload a video, whether it comes from their phone or whether it comes from their computer. Very simple and easy for them to do that. And so it's made, the officer's time much more efficient, and the time for the public as well. So anything else you'd like to see?
Any questions for Wendy? I will make a motion that we go with both Taser and Axon for 10 years, contingent upon contract review by our chief financial officer and the county attorney.
Second.
And the possibility of maybe changing the timeline, or not to do the system, I guess, immediately.
Sure, yes, there needs to be flexibility on implementation of the tasers.
Is the contract coming back to the board?
Yes.
Yes.
And will this ensure the county, if we went with 10 years, will this ensure the county that will be updated on both pieces of equipment for the 10 years?
Yes, is what they're indicating. Yes.
So really, all we're approving today is the vendor for the RFP at 10 years. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
We're not locking
And
into
and the contract will come back with the questions that were thrown out either by myself or other supervisors at the time of the approval of the contract.
Yes.
Yes. And we don't think that'll be too long, like we thought within a month or maybe.
I don't think so. I mean, the back and forth might take some time, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get something still this week to present to Mr. Trinan. That way we can expedite that.
All right. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Belka.
Yes. Any information or reports from the board?
Only
I'd like to offer my congratulations to Supervisor Hall.
Yeah, we held off.
Very exciting for your growing family.
It was easy for me.
He started to do it.
Oh, yes.
And I just want to comment about the session, that we have the strategic planning session on Thursday.
Yep.
While I think Lori's invitation went out from like to be 9 to 1, he's actually going to only be here the 9:30 to noon, so it would be a little shorter.
Okay.
But
Good.
The setup time was in there, so. Great.
Good, okay. Any others? All right, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. We are adjourned.